how is the physical learning the education of the future? That is demonstrated with every child that's born, and how the child, before they learn a language, already learn many things based on the environmental impact. And all the things they're learning before they have a language. Have a look. You've learned most things about your environment before you had a language. Language came later. Language became the sense of the fathers that was transmitted. Yes, the environment is also the sense of the fathers, because it is what you find when you get on earth. But just as easy as it is to teach a child the current way of the world, which is very abusive, one can teach a child the way of the world that's best for all. And the evidence of that is in front of us all the time with every child being born. It's in front of us as we teach the children our fears, our lack of morality, our lack of consideration, our lack of love, our lack of understanding of life, because we are teaching them systems based on our fears, systems based on our deception, as we deceive each other in the competition for survival and control and power. When language is taught, what do we teach our children? We teach them another self, not the original self that was born as the physical that started learning. We suppress that the moment we get to the point of teaching the child personality, language, communication. Yet the child has been communicating before language already and has learned a lot faster. That is a natural learning ability that exists. And even those that has been taught the destructive ways of the world can be assisted to correct it through a process of self-forgiveness, self-honesty, and with a high-speed input of software with which one can correct the language content which makes up the consciousness, personality of the being, by utilizing the impact at the speed where the physical is learning instead of the mind. So you can call it the physical mind, which are far more advanced than the mind that we teach our children through education and through language. That's really limited. And every child, unless they have a physical disability, have the capacity to be equal within this learning ability of the physical. It is simply getting them used to it again. All learn at a high-speed modality, effectively. And children do understand equality much better. It's only when their parents have influenced them, their environment has influenced them to compete through examples, that they tend to be more competitive. When there is a fear imprinted with what they have observed without language around themselves. Even in the self-forgiveness, one must pay attention to bring into correction the points you have learned before you had language. That would have been taught at the level of the physical. And one must spend time on identifying, by observing your family patterns, what type of things you have accepted and allowed as yourself, as a foundation of who you are within who you are now, and how you have expanded and how you have used that to come to conclusions and made decisions about who you are now in this world. And then one must look at utilizing a matrix of what is best for all as comparison in terms of recreating yourself and removing the limitation and bringing forth yourself as a being that live as what is best for all in every way. It is really a lot simpler than what one would like to believe, because there's this idea that human nature cannot change. There's this idea that you cannot change who you are, but that is not true. There is a resistance, because when you are imprinting a new self, the physical resists, because its first command was the commands you have already imposed upon it based on the way the world works, and within that you have the feedback that says the way you have been programmed by society is the right way, because there's a way that you can be a winner, there's a way that you can be wealthy, there's all kinds of ways, there's a way you can be happy. And if you now go and change, you go against the flow of this reality, the flow of the way the culture and the economics and all of that works, then you end up with nothing. You end on the street. So there's a fear that you will become a loser if you would change who you are, that you'll become a zombie if you would change who you are. But in fact, those that promote such fears are in fact aware that they can change, but they have found ways that they can manipulate and abuse people around them, and that if they have to change, they will have to face the forgiveness, they'll have to face the self-honesty, and they are too fearful of that, because some of the things they've done has been really nasty. So therefore, when they attack us, you'll, for instance, see how nasty these people really are. And it's because they are really that nasty, and they do that nasty stuff to people. That's why they attack us in the same nasty way. With us, they can do it openly, because we are a big threat to their power and control and abuse. We're a big threat to their ego. We're a big threat to the way they've been able to get away with abuse in their world. Obviously, we won't stop. They will try and stop us, but we won't stop regardless, because the evidence is on our side. It shows very clearly that what we are presenting within the context of how the human learn, that it is possible to change. And we have proven it with lots of people that is already changed and that is busy changing. So, education will be to teach the physical, effective living. And the mind, which was supposed to be the servant, will be the servant of the physical. And the physical will be what will have dominion, not the mind. Because the mind is not the master. The mind is purely a way with which one can organize things and find different ways to support the physical more effectively. It is not the boss. The boss is the physical, and that is the part that learn so fast before one introduce the strange thing called language. Land, after all, is a network. It's a network of communication, and that net works according to the net that one plays out as the culture and the economics and the religion and family and all kinds of stuff. And much of that is then based on belief. In spite of the feedback that show very clearly and evidence that what humanity has been teaching the children, and the children became adults, and the adults teach children, that these sins of the fathers has been very destructive, and has now brought the world to a complete divided world between haves and have-nots. And yet it is justified. It is defended, but not by the physical. It's defended by the mind, by the ego, by those that has found ways to abuse others. And when a person come and abuse the Estonians, they are in fact proving what we're saying, that they are in fact not only abusing us, they are also abusers in their own world. And if one would go and investigate their world, and be a fly on the wall, you'll see how they abuse. So, please, I dare you to take a moment and really consider what we are sharing. We're sharing a way where you can stop what you're doing and bring about a world that is best for all, and that would include you and your children and their children. A world where the abuse stops forevermore. Imagine that. A world where life will be without fear. That's what everybody dreams of. But you don't need love to blind yourself to the reality of this reality, where in fact the reality is a place that you can trust, and the human is a place, as a being that you can trust. Truly, neighbors, love thy neighbors in practical application. So join us. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to unlearn. You know that you've been brainwashed. You know that there's a problem. To continue on a path simply to abuse those that you are able to abuse, that cannot continue. There is going to be a retribution. There is going to be a consequence. And the consequence is going to visit not only you, but also your generations to follow. Join us to bring an end to this, because we have already proven what we are saying and what we are sharing. It is in fact an effective result that bring about a world that's best for all. Join us.